Hello and welcome to this new Android development tutorial. This is part 6 and hopefully the final part on how to create a calendar application for Android. In this tutorial, we will learn how to fix the problems we had in the previous tutorials. We will change the way we did some file read and write operations with better ones in order for us to achieve what we want, which is being able to access information on the disk. Okay, so if we run the app right now, we can see that the problem was that we are not really capable of storing information on the disk. Okay, so we have to fix that. The way we're trying to store information on the disk is here on the save info method. So we will delete all of this and we will now actually save info and read info. We will delete these both, well, the content of these two methods. And what we will do is actually we will create a better way of doing this. Okay? So how we will achieve that? Well, let's start with the save info. Okay, we will write the save info method right now. The first thing we're gonna do is to create a file. So we're gonna say file. I will call this file. And don't forget to import the file class, of course, as always. Oops. Okay, and I will set this to new file. And the first parameter will be these that get files directory. Okay, and the second parameter will be double quote saved. So we will call this file saved. So this file will store the strings, the calendar strings, the actual information. But we want also to create more files, one for the days, one for the months, and one for the years. So let's start with one for the days. I'm gonna say files, days, oops, it's just file. Days file equals new file. And this first parameter, again, we will say these that get files directory. And in this case, the second parameter, we will write days. Okay. Okay, so now we're gonna continue with the next files, which will be the months file. So I'm gonna say file months file, and we'll set these to new. So basically the same. New file these that get file directory. Of course, you can optimize this a bit if you create a kind of default directory, but well, that really is not really important. We just want to achieve our goal. Okay, so the child, the file name will be months. Okay, and finally we have to create one for years. So you're gonna say file years file. It'll set this to new file. These that get files directory, and I'll pass years. Okay, great. Now we have defined these files, but in order for us to save information to write to those files, we have to create a file output stream and a buffered writer. So we have to do this for each one of the files. Of course, again, you can optimize this better if you want, but this is just for explanation purposes, a kind of an easy way of seeing or reading the code and know what's going on. So we're going to start by saying file output stream. Of course, we have to import this class, and I'll call this fout. Okay, and I'll set these to new file output stream. Okay, in the next line, I will create a buffered writer. Oops, sorry, but here I have to pass the file I want to create. In this case, the first one, which is called just file. Okay, so this file will store the calendar strings, the data. As you can see, it shows us a warning that says unhandled exception, so I will click surround with try catch. So we have to do this, and here instead of file not found exception, what I will do is just write exception. And in order for us to check, we will continue to write the next code, the next lines of code inside the try block. So after the file output stream line, we will create a buffered writer. So I can say buffered writer, and we will call it BW for buffered writer. And I'll set this to new buffered writer, and I'll set new as parameter. I will pass new output stream writer, and as parameter of that I'll pass fout, which is the file output stream. So make sure you do exactly as me. So that's it for the first one. Then we have to do the same with the other files. So let's go ahead and write that code. So again, file output stream, and in this case I will call it fout days, and I'll set this to new file output stream, and I'll pass, in this case it would be days file, because that's the corresponding file for this output stream. And of course I have to create another buffered writer actually, and I will call it bw days, and I'll set this to new buffered writer, and as parameter, so the same we did previously, I'll pass output stream writer and as file and fout days, so fout days. So we have now for the strings and for the days. So we have to go ahead and continue with months and years. So let's do just that. So we're gonna type file output stream fout months, and I'll set these to new file output stream months file. Okay, so fout months will be set to months file, and again buffered writer, so buffered writer will be bw months, okay, and I'll set these to new buffered writer, and I'll pass new output stream writer and fout months. Okay, so pretty straightforward. And now we're gonna do the last one, which is years. So you're gonna say file output stream fout years, and I'll set this to new file output stream, and I'll pass years file. So pretty straightforward. And here I'm gonna say buffered writer bw years, and I'll set this to new buffered writer new output stream writer and fout years. Okay, so we have done those file output stream and buffered writers for all of our objects. Now we want to create a for loop that will write the things we need to be wrote. Now we will create only one for loop for all of these. So we're gonna say for int I equals 0 semicolon I less than index, because remember index tells us the amount of objects that we have stored, the amount of strings and objects and variables, and lastly I plus plus. So pretty simple for loop. Okay, Inside the for loop, what we're gonna do is the following. We're gonna say bw, which is for the strings, the original buffered writer, bw.write, okay, and we will write the current calendar string. So we're gonna say calendar strings that get the element at I. Okay, so next we will write a new line because we want to be able to tell where a new line starts. So that's pretty simple. We're gonna say bw dot new line. Okay, and now we can start writing the days, the months, and the years. It's pretty straightforward as well. So you're gonna say bw days, okay, that write days at I, okay. As you may guess, we have to do the same with months and years. So bw months, bw months that write months at I. And lastly, bw years that write years at I. Okay. Okay. Now, after the for loop, we have to close all of the objects. So here, when for loop ends, we have wrote everything we need. So we have to close all of the objects we previously opened. So I'm gonna say bw.close, and oops, so this is method. So bw.close, we're gonna say fout.close. We're gonna say bw days.close, fout days.close, bw months.close, fout months.close, bw years.close, fout years.close. So we're basically closing everything, every object we opened in order to write the previous data. Okay, so that's basically it for this. We close it and we have our method ready to be used. So that's for the save information method. Now let's gonna do the read information method. Okay, so we're gonna go to the read information method and we will start typing the following. We can copy these files because we will be creating them again. So you can copy these 4 lines right here, okay, and you can paste them inside here, but only those 4 lines. The rest we have to write, okay. So we have those 4 files again, and what we want to do is we want to check if the file exists or not. In the first run, the file won't exist. For example, we can do this with either of those, with all of those, but for now, for simplicity, we will do only with the first, which is file. So you're gonna say if file that exists, or actually to make the code cleaner, we will check if the file doesn't exist, we will return, okay? Which means we won't do anything if the file doesn't exist, which is great, right? It's a simpler way of abstracting things. But if the file exists, and of course this won't be returning, we will start with the following. So first of all, let's create a try block. We create a try block, then we create a catch block, and we will catch exception. We'll call this E, and inside the catch block we're going to say E.print stack trace. Okay, now everything that we're going to write will be inside the try block because file operations may cause exceptions, so we have to try and catch. So inside the try block we're going to write file input stream, I'll call it IS, and I'll set this to new file input stream, and I will pass file. So pretty similar what we did previously, but now is for everything is for reading rather than for writing. Then we're going to say buffered reader, and I'll call this reader, and I'll set these to new buffered reader, and I'll pass new input stream reader, and I'll pass is. Kind of the opposite of what we did previously. We were writing information, now we're trying to read it. So that's for the calendar strings, but now we also have to read days, months, and years. So let's go ahead and start with days. So I'm going to say file input stream is days. And I'll set these to new file input stream days file. Okay, and the rest you know, file buffered reader, and we will call it reader days. I'll set this to new buffered reader, new input stream reader, and I'll pass is days. Okay, so we have reader and days. Now we're gonna go with months. So file input stream is months. I'll say new file input stream, and I'll pass months file. Okay, and now what I'm gonna do is for year. No, actually have to create a buffered reader. So buffered reader, reader months, and I'll set this to new buffered reader. I'll pass new input stream reader. Okay, and I'll pass is months. Okay, and now lastly we have to do it for years. So we're gonna say file input stream is years, new file input stream years file, and then buffered reader years. Okay, and I'll set these to new buffered reader, new input stream reader is years. Okay, so now we have created all the readers we wanted to create. Now we have to create a loop in which we would check for new lines that we want to read. And we also want to access the days as integers. So we're gonna kind of check it in an array, so we need an index. We will use an integer called I for that. So we're gonna say int I equals 0, which will be our index to our arrays. And we'll create the following while loop. We're gonna say while, actually we want to create a string called line, and we will set this to reader that read line. Okay, and now we will check if the line is null. So you can say while line is different than null, we're gonna keep reading lines, right? Basically it is saying as long as there's new lines to read, keep reading it and keep loading it to our application. So you're gonna say calendar strings that add, and we will add the line that is being read, right? So calendar strings that add line. Okay, and then we're gonna say again line equals reader that read line for the next. We have to be prepared for the next loop. And of course we have to also, if the line is not null, then we can also read the days. So you can say days at I equals reader days that read, and again months at I equals reader months that read, okay, and years at I equals reader years that read. Okay, so now we're reading all of these into our arrays and into our array list. And of course, after we've done this, we have to increment the I. So you're gonna say I plus plus. Okay, and after we do this, remember we use the index variable to check how many items do we have stored. So we have to update that. So we're gonna say index, and we'll set the index to I. And my friends, that's basically all we need to do to read and write information. But of course, we still have to test it to check there is not any errors and any of that's not occurring. But first, we have to check where we are we calling from these methods. So where are these methods being called from? So the save information is called from the onPause method. And the read information should be called from the onCreate method, which right here. I think this will work as it is. If it doesn't work, we will adjust. But for now, let's start testing the app. So I'm gonna run the app. Hopefully it compiles great. Okay. And yeah, it is running on the emulator. Here on the emulator, as you can see, today is May 22. If I click on the today's date, I'll write hello May 22 and I'll click on save. Now I'll move to May 23rd and I'll write hello May 23rd. Okay, and I'll click on save. Now what I want to do is I'm gonna pause the application. So as you can see, if I click on the days, it still has the relevant information. If I pause the application and go again here, it still has the information. Now if I destroy the application, like if I close it and I want to open it again, and I'll go to May 22, as you can see, it is preserving the information. So even if you restart your phone, even if you close the app, this information will still be preserved. Okay, but now let's try to test it more deeply. So remember the today button, if you click on that, it goes to today. If we go to another place and go back to today, well, it works. Now, what else can we test here? Let's try to go to another year even. March 2020. I'll click on the 5th of March 2020 and I will write I am March 5th of 2020 and I'll click save. Okay, and I'll destroy the application to check if March 5th of 2020 is still available. So May 22, still we have hello May 22. May 23rd, we still have that. So now we're gonna go to 2020 and we're gonna search for March 5th. And as you can see, it says I am March 5th of 2020, which is awesome. This is exactly what we want from our calendar. And right now it is capable of storing all this information. So let's check if we can do something else. I think it is working pretty fine. Let me check here. Of course, we're reading the information only once. I mean, only when the activity is created. in order for us to avoid reading it every time we resume the activity, for example. So right now, this is a kind of efficient way of doing this. We're reading the information only when the activity is created. In my case, I only have 194 lines of code, and even with some empty lines, as you can see right here. So it's a pretty small application, but that just enables us to save the information and to have great calendar features using, of course, the calendar view that comes with Android. So I think that's it for this video. That's it for this course. I hope you enjoyed it, and I see you in a future course. Thank you and bye.